give you guys a little bit of background on this. Jordan Peterson, who is a psychologist from, I believe Toronto is where he's from. He recently resigned his tenure professorship at the college he was working at because of diversity plans. He didn't like that there were more black people being accepted to the school. He didn't like that people of color were being accepted to the school. And said it was going to take away possible job opportunities and career opportunities for the white students who were more well off and smarter. And I'm paraphrasing here, but if you read the letter of resignation that he sent, it basically it says that. So he's a douche. He's a major douche, and he likes word salad. He likes to just talk and hear himself talk and say stuff that doesn't really mean anything. He's an advocate for an all-meat diet, which is just disgusting. And he was more coherent, I think, in my opinion, he was more coherent when he was taking barbiturates on a regular basis. Anyways, Jordan Peterson is... a lot of people think he's a great self-help person, but I think he does more damage than he does good. Hands down. And in this segment, he's teaming up with Joe Rogan, who's also doing a lot of damage himself. And they had quite the conversation on Joe Rogan's podcast just recently, which is on Spotify, which is losing people like Neil Young because they don't want to be on the same platform as somebody who's spreading COVID misinformation. But anyways, we're going to take a look at a couple of the more crazy pants videos, clips that were from the Joe Rogan Experience with him and Jordan Peterson. Now, something that you'll notice right away is that Jordan Peterson wore a tux for some reason to the Joe Rogan show. So I believe this is the one that most people are up in arms about the most. This is the one on climate change. And I heard his language on this. He says absolutely nothing. He talks a lot, but says absolutely nothing through this whole segment. And you'll see what I mean here in just a second.
Well, that's because there's no such thing as climate, right? Climate and everything are the same word. And that's what bothers me about...
Climate and everything are the same word. No, they're fucking not. No, they're not. If you're talking about climate in general, like the climate of a political climate, the word climate can be used for several different subjects, but we're talking about the Earth's climate here. It's not everything. All right? If I eat a sandwich, right, it's not going to affect the climate. If I run an oil company, that's going to affect the fucking climate. If I'm reading a comic book while in my underwear on a Sunday afternoon, that's not going to affect climate. What's going to affect climate is all of the CO2 we're pumping into the atmosphere. This guy says nothing. I'm telling you, this whole video.
The climate change types. It's like, this is something that bothers me about it, technically.
The climate change types. Are you talking about like 80% of the fucking population of the world? Jesus Christ. It depends on the sandwich, really. I guess if it's like a bunch of beef, that could maybe a minuscule amount like affect the climate because of the methane, the cows. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. I don't know. But
it's like, well, climate is about everything. So okay. But your models aren't based on everything. Your models are based on a set number of variables.
Yeah, a set number of variables like, oh, the amount of CO2 Yeah, a cow sandwich. No, like the amount of CO2 that's pumped in the atmosphere. Where does the CO2 comes from? Then we do experiments and we find out that a large amount of the CO2 and greenhouse gases that are being pumped into the atmosphere are being pumped into the atmosphere by human beings and the industrialization of the world. We can see this on graphs and charts, and they can tell by the amount of particulates, and there's science behind this, guys. There's not, it's not just one guy standing on a milk crate screaming about the end of the world because, of greenhouse gases. It's fucking scientists. It's like, it's a consensus.
Yeah.
So that means you've reduced the variables, which are everything, to that set. Well, how did you decide which set of variables to include in the equation if it's about everything? And that's not just a criticism. That's like, if it's about everything, your models aren't right. Because your models do not and cannot model everything.
What do you mean by everything when you say
Well,
models?
but that's what people who talk about the climate apocalypse claim in some sense.
What the hell is he talking about? All right, they don't claim that the climate has to do with everything. They say that it will affect everything because it will. We live on this planet. It's the only planet we have. The climate surrounds us. The whole fucking planet. It surrounds the whole thing. Like, if we ruin this, what we have here, it's all we have, right? Like, what the hell is he talking about?
Sense. We have to change everything. It's like, everything, eh? Okay, what?
No, we don't have to change everything. Nobody said that we have to change everything. We have to change the way we generate power. We have to change the way we deal with waste. We have to change the way we, deal with the oceans and probably our food production. It's not everything. It's not everything, and it's not an insurmountable goal either. It's something that we can definitely achieve if we just get off of our dumb asses and actually do something about it. I don't want my kid to grow up in a world where there's climate refugees all over the place and rampant crime and the destruction of the oceans and no safe water anywhere. It's not a exaggeration. We're heading towards a hellscape if we don't take care of the world that we live on. And no amount of going to Mars, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love space travel, I love the idea of it, but no amount of going to Mars is going to make a better world anytime soon than we have right here, right now. And we need to make sure that we're taking care of it.
What? And the same with the word environment. That word doesn't mean, it means so much that it actually doesn't mean anything. Like when you say everything, in a sense, that's meaningless, right? Because, well, what are you pointing to? Well, I'm pointing to everything. Well, what's the difference between the environment and everything? There's no difference. What's the difference between climate and everything? Well, there's no difference. So this is a crisis of everything?
Word salad, guys. It is word salad. He said absolutely nothing there. Like, I have no idea where he gets this from. If anybody in chat can explain to me what the fuck he's trying to get at, please let me know. But it really, I think he's being paid to say stuff like this. Yeah, he's trying to baffle us with bullshit. That's about right.
It's like, no, it's not. Or if it is, well, if it really is, then we're done because we can't fix everything.
Well,
but we have
specifically-
to. The fastest way to make the planet sustainably green and ecologically viable is to make poor people as rich as possible, as fast as we possibly can. Because the thing about poor people is that, well, first of all, they're not.
No. Oh my God. Okay. So not only is he saying the climate is not changing because it's everything, or I don't know what the fuck he was saying there, but now he's blaming everything on poor people instead of, the way we generally do things to generate power and the waste that we produce, so on and so forth. Well, you know what would be the fastest way to make all the poor people rich is to basically tax the fuck out of the rich and redistribute some wealth in this country. That's how we do it.
resource efficient. They use a lot of resources to produce very, very little outcome. And so that's a problem. Slash and burn
Why don't we just kill them all, huh, Jordan? Is that what you're getting at? You just want to kill all the poor people? Is that where you're going with this? How about you stop eating all meat, and then maybe that'll leave less of a footprint.
Agriculture, for example. But even more importantly, when you're insecure on a day-to-day basis, you don't know where your next meal is coming from. You're not paying attention to the broader environment, that hated word, around you. And you can't even really worry about your children's future in some real sense, because like, no, you don't understand. Lunch is the future. We don't have lunch, we're hungry, and that goes on for like a month.
Exactly, Oppenheimer. Very little outcome, like doing all the work. You mean like laboring, being for like slave wages, so that we can keep this whole fucking country going while you guys all sit and chuckle to yourselves because you fucking hold all the cards and have all the money? Jesus Christ. And see, it's poorer people and people who are in worse positions listen to this guy, and then they fall for his bullshit. It's great.
We're dead. That's the future. So what happens? If you can get resources to the poorest section of the population, as soon as they get to the point where they have some hope of a genuine future, especially for their children,
Okay, the reason we don't have a hope generally for our children is not only the economy, it's because of fucking climate change, and because assholes like you won't admit what's truly going on in the world.
immediately become concerned about broader environmental considerations. And then the attempt to make the environment habitable and sustainable, that comes up of its own accord at a grassroots level and spreads everywhere. And the evidence for that is clear. And so this is one of the things that really bothered me about COP26. So, and that was based in part on this.
What is that?
That was the big climate meeting in the UK just a few months ago. You know, the one where all the COVID rules were suspended so the important people could talk about important things. In any case, I thought if the politicians who were discussing environmental sustainability were serious, especially the left-wing ones, and I say especially because the left-wing ones always say, well, we care about the poor and dispossessed. It's like, do you really? When push comes to shove. It's like, is it the environment or poor people? If your idea is that we have to limit growth to save the planet. If we limit growth...
I would say it's rich people. I would say it's rich people who do that, because it's usually coal and oil barons and the people who are actually running crypto right now are causing a lot of energy to be depleted, and oil companies and coal companies are stopping us from going into renewable energies, and the government is being controlled by special corporate interests who are stopping any legislation from being made to help the climate or to help poor people. So it's all boils down to rich people, I think. I think it's a much more logical point than he's trying to make here.
Growth, poor people starve. Because whenever we put limits on economic development, who suffers? The rich? Are you really? That's what you think? And you're on the left, you think if you put limits on economic development, the rich will suffer. That runs contrary to every theory that your whole political philosophy is based on. You put limits to growth on, the poor stay poor or get worse. Doesn't matter because the planet has too many people on it anyways, which it most certainly does not. If you are serious about the environment, and even vaguely concerned about poor people, all of your policies would be devoted to making the poor rich as fast as possible. But that would violate the anti-capitalist presumption, let's say, that the reason for environmental degradation in the first place is, say...
Capitalism? Because it is. It is. Unchecked capitalism is what's causing most of the environmental issues that we have. The unchecked capitalism in the factory farming industry, lack of regulations in the oil and coal industries and in energy industries as a whole, the lack of legislation being passed to help stop these things from happening because it's controlled by corporate interests who don't want any change coming. Yeah, rich people determine the environment in which we live and work. Poor people didn't put lead in the water, capitalists did. Exactly. Now, I will say that there has been some growth historically because of capitalism. It's better than feudalism. Let's say that. It's better than feudalism, but it's failing majorly right now. Ever since I believe it was the 80s, really is when this really started happening, when they started taking away regulations on big business and which includes oil companies, pharmaceutical companies, all of these different billionaire corporate businesses. Once they were unchecked and able to do whatever the fuck they wanted, they start basically ruining the world in any possible way. Yeah, even Marx said capitalism was better than feudalism. That's very true. It was a stepping stone. That's how I see capitalism. It was a stepping stone to get us out of the control of the feudal kings and rulers and things like that. It made things more democratized, but it's not enough. We shouldn't stop here, is what I'm saying. We need to refine our ideas on the economy and worker rights and all of that stuff so that we're better, more efficient, happier. That's the most important thing, is that people need to be happy, and we need to progress in a way that's going to not only stop the planet from being destroyed, but also that lifts us all up past the point of poverty, no matter who you are. And we can achieve that. That's an easy goal to achieve if we would just stop allowing these greedy totalitarianist motherfuckers from screwing everything up and basically taking all of our resources and hoarding all of our money and using us as pawns to build their empires so that they can drill into the ground, rip everything out of it, poison the oceans, so on and so forth. It's ridiculous, man. We need to really do something about this, because it's getting to the point where we're not going to be able to, and the whole world's just going to be fucked.
Entrepreneurial and free market.
And that's not any sort of exaggeration either. I'm known for my hyperbole on occasion, but this, when it comes to climate change, I don't think that there's a level of hyperbole that you can really lead into that will not match what's actually going to happen.
Development, which it most certainly isn't. That's actually completely backwards. Make poor people rich. So what should a COP26 been about? That's fairly straightforward. It should have been about trying to generate as much energy as we possibly can to be distributed as widely as possible in the cheapest possible manner.
Notice he didn't say anything in there about doing it in a safe way so that we don't dump a bunch of chemicals and particulates and CO2 into the atmosphere. That we just need to do it as fast as possible. Jesus Christ.
Nuclear?
No, well, I would say ultimately likely nuclear, and probably not fusion, because it's so, fusion has always been a year away, 10 years away for the last 50 years. We haven't managed it. Nuclear, likely.
He doesn't know. He has no idea. No idea whatsoever. That wasn't the only one, guys. There's more. Oh boy, is there more. There's a couple of videos that I wanted to show you that have Jordan Peterson speaking on race issues.
So one part is, this is very, very cool. So when Arthur first grips the sword, he's blown off it. Now he can pull it out of the stone because he's the guy. He's the long lost son of the rightful king. Long lost. You said, well, wasn't everybody opposing the tyranny of the times? It's like, yeah, welcome to the world, man. Welcome to the world. We're all long lost sons of the rightful king. And the king's now a tyrant. And don't we have to deal with that? And that's...
What the fuck is he talking about, man?
There is bloody well right we do. So Arthur, who's got his eyes open, and he's born in straitened circumstances and has to grow up street smart, and his friends are all funny and they engage in witty repartee, and like he knows the world from the ground up. Grabs the sword, he can pull it out of the stone, but he's blown right off it. He can't wield it because
you said that already, dude. Like, God, get a point together.
He has visions of his evil uncle who conspired with feminine forces of chaos and killed his father, murdered his father.
Oh yeah, he's a chauvinist too. I forgot to mention that.
And his mother. So his uncle is a murderer. His uncle's a murderer. Well, so is your uncle. And so is my uncle. That's our historical guilt that the lefties weaponize all the time. It's like the soil we walk on is soaked with blood. And Arthur can't wield the sword that's his rightfully.
All right. So what he's trying to do here is he's trying to use the fact that there's historical precedent for all kinds of tyranny and things like that. He's saying that we should just ignore our past. I think this is what he's saying. It's Jordan Peterson, so. But what it sounds to me like he's saying is that we shouldn't talk about the slave owners and the things like that in this country because we all had ancestors that were tyrannical and ancestors that did bad things. The problem with this is that in many ways, the people of color in this country whose ancestors were subject to the tyranny that the white colonizers of this country brought down on them by bringing them here and enslaving them is still affecting them to this day. It's not, and it didn't end. It's not like all of a sudden, slavery ended and black people had just as much rights and standing in society as white people do. Black people have not had a fair shake in this country since the inception of it, since before the inception of it. And you have things like that go down the line, like, you had the failure of the Reformation, the problem with redlining in this country, segregation, Jim Crow, all the way down the line. And then you have police brutality today and the demonizing of BLM, the disproportionate amount of people who are imprisoned in this country that have a skin color that's different from white people's. It's ridiculous, and it's obvious that these problems are still going on. So it's because of that history that we lived, and we need to understand that in order to make change today so that things are equal for everybody, so that there is equality and there is equity. That's what we need. And he doesn't seem to realize that. He just ignores that.
Because he has visions of historical atrocity. It's like, welcome to the world, man. It's like, how do you know your masculine ambition isn't part of the world-destroying force? Because, yes, it is. So then...
Listen to Joe. He's like, good point. He has no idea. He just wants to sound smart.
Why, when I accuse you of racism and so forth, and your white privilege and your masculine privilege, like, why don't you just wander off in a corner and feel terrible and apologize? And the answer is, you probably will, because most people do. You don't, but most people do, and I know why. Partly because they're reasonable. If 30 people come after you and say, you're a racist tyrant, and there's 30 of them, you go home and you think, well, 30 people think I'm a racist tyrant, and like, I got my flaws, man, and I might be a little racist because we all have in-group preferences, and I shoot my mouth off sometimes, and I haven't always been the way with women that I should be, and maybe I've mistreated some people, and maybe I did it too much, and sorry. And then you're a shell, right? Another mob comes for you. It doesn't work at all.
Oh, guys, I don't know. I can't even say like what his thoughts are. I can't put them together in words that make any sense whatsoever. I can't evaluate his statements because he doesn't make any sense. He doesn't make any... I have to try to discern and pull something out. All I know is what he's saying is wrong, and that he's... you can tell from his rhetoric that he's a chauvinist and that he's racist and that he's, an imperialist. But he throws all this extra jargon in there to try to confuse and, I guess, hypnotize people. I have no idea. Make himself sound smart. Yeah, I feel stupider listening to that asshat. One more, guys. I'm sorry to put you through this. I really am. But we should all be angry about this kind of bullshit.
What did Michael
Prejudice.
Eric Dyson call you? A mean, angry white man?
And a mean, angry white man. Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
You're not mean at all.
Yeah.
That's what's dumb about that statement. It's you're not mean at all. It's
I am.
Yeah, no. I think he's more, what's the word? Narcissistic. than mean. He doesn't, which kind of goes hand in hand. I don't think he's deliberately mean. It's just who he is.
I'm white. Actually, that's a lie too. I'm kind of tan, and he was actually not black.
If you're tan,
he was
what
sort
the
of
fuck
brown.
am I? Because I'm darker than you.
Yeah,
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. But neither of us are white.
Well, I'm Italian.
Yeah, dismissive is bad enough, yeah, for sure. And this whole rhetoric about, oh, I'm not really white, I'm tan. The point he's trying to get is that people shouldn't call themselves black. There's not a black culture because they're not black. They're brown or whatever. And it's just bullshit. He's just trying to use semantics or try to use some stupid argument to, I don't know, disavow black movements or something. I don't know. I have no idea. He's seriously just babbling on this show. And I'm sure that the right wing and fucking Nazis and racists everywhere are just eating it up. And chauvinists.
And he was
Mostly.
brown, not black.
Well, isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's really weird.
The black and white thing is so strange because
like
the shades are so
tan and brown.
There's such a spectrum of shades of people. Unless you're talking to someone who is like 100% African from the darkest place where they're not wearing any clothes all day and they've developed all that melanin to protect themselves from the sun. You know, even the term black is weird. And when you use it for people that are literally my color, it becomes very strange.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
But yet, you get mad when they allow those people grants to come to your school, right? Like, he quit his fucking tenureship at his college, resigned his professorship because there were too many like people of color that were coming into the school, basically. So yeah, he just talks and likes to hear himself talk. That's all it is. And he's racist and sexist and imperialist, and it just kind of blurts out of his mouth and goes out of his, rolls off of his tongue with a bunch of other word salad and tries to make it sound intellectual, and it's just a bunch of bullshit is all it is. That's Jordan Peterson for y'all, and Joe Rogan. Look at this. Duh. Look at that look on his face. That's the epitome of Joe Rogan these days right there. What a fall from grace. What a fall from grace.